Because the silence between her and her husband had become familiar yet uncomfortable, not cold but distant, like two people standing close without touching. Daniel moved through the kitchen with quiet politeness, smiling gently, thanking her for breakfast. But his eyes looked tired, not from lack of sleep, but from carrying years of responsibility without pause. And Emma watched him carefully, remembering how he used to talk endlessly about music, dreams, and plans, how he once filled rooms with laughter, and how over time those things faded, not because love ended, but because life grew crowded with work deadlines, financial worries, and routines that slowly replaced passion. Emma loved Daniel deeply, and that love was the reason her heart felt restless, because she knew something inside him was shrinking, and she feared one day he would wake up feeling like a stranger to himself. So weeks earlier, driven by quiet concern rather than impulse, she searched for a meaningful way to give him something different for his birthday, not a watch or a dinner, but a reminder of who he was, which led her to discover Lucas Reed, a professional creative mentor known for helping people reconnect with lost parts of themselves. And although hiring another person as a birthday gift felt unusual and risky, Emma believed this choice came from care, not doubt, love, not distance. Still, as Daniel thanked her politely that morning and prepared to leave for work, Emma felt nervous, wondering whether this gift would bring them closer or reveal truths they were not ready to face. Because love sometimes requires courage, and Emma had just taken a step that could either heal what was fragile or expose how fragile it truly was. That evening, Emma asked Daniel to dress nicely without explaining why, and though he teased her lightly, she could sense his curiosity growing as they drove through the city toward a quiet studio near the river, a place calm and warm, far from the noise of daily life. And when they arrived, Daniel looked around in confusion, unsure what kind of birthday surprise required such silence, until a man named Lucas Reed stepped forward with an easy, respectful smile and greeted Daniel by name, which made Daniel turn toward Emma with raised eyebrows, surprised but not angry, just uncertain. And Emma explained gently that Lucas was part of his gift, someone she had hired to give him time and space to talk about himself without pressure. And for a moment Daniel hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. Yet something in Emma's careful honesty made him agree to stay, and as Lucas guided him into a conversation, not with questions that felt invasive but with simple prompts about dreams, stress, and forgotten joys, Daniel slowly began to open up, his voice gaining strength as words he had buried for years finally found air. And from across the room Emma watched quietly, feeling both relief and fear as she saw Daniel laugh in a way she had not heard in a long time, then grow serious as he admitted how tired he felt of always being strong. And when the session ended, Daniel thanked Lucas sincerely, surprising even himself with how meaningful the experience felt. And during the drive home he remained quiet, not distant but thoughtful, as if something deep inside him had shifted. And when he finally spoke, he told Emma that the evening had helped him remember parts of himself he thought were gone. And Emma smiled, glad he felt lighter. Yet as she lay awake later that night, she wondered whether giving him this gift had started a change she could not fully control, because even acts of love can carry quiet risks when they open doors long kept closed. In the weeks that followed Daniel's birthday, small changes appeared quickly and moved like a current through their daily life, because Daniel seemed lighter, waking earlier, smiling more often, and picking up his old guitar again as if it had been waiting patiently for him. And Emma noticed how music slowly returned to their home, filling spaces that had once felt quiet and tense. Yet alongside her happiness grew a soft unease she could not ignore, since Daniel spoke about his conversations with Lucas with respect and gratitude, sharing how those talks helped him think clearly and feel motivated again. And although Emma listened with support and encouraged his growth, late at night she questioned herself, wondering whether she had stepped aside from an emotional role that once belonged to her. And this feeling deepened when Daniel mentioned attending a small open mic event with Lucas, not to perform but simply to observe. And Emma agreed outwardly while privately facing a mix of pride and fear, realizing her struggle was not jealousy but a concern about losing emotional closeness. And days later, when Emma unexpectedly met Lucas at a cafe, their brief conversation brought her clarity rather than discomfort, because Lucas spoke kindly about Daniel's respect for her and reminded Emma that supporting someone's growth does not mean becoming less important. And that understanding stayed with her, helping her see that Daniel's change was not a step away from their marriage but a step toward himself. And by the time Daniel returned from the open mic night with renewed energy and gratitude, Emma understood that love was not shrinking between them but stretching into a new shape, one that required trust, patience, and the courage to grow together instead of holding tightly to the past. A quiet rainy afternoon, Emma found Daniel sitting in the living room with his guitar resting beside him, and without planning a long speech, she asked if they could talk, because she no longer wanted to carry her worries in silence. And as they sat facing each other, she admitted honestly that while she was happy to see him alive again, she had been afraid that helping him reconnect with himself might slowly push her to the side. And Daniel listened carefully, holding her hands and answering without hesitation, telling her that her decision had never made him feel distant from her but instead reminded him how deeply she understood him, explaining that Lucas had helped him hear his own thoughts, but Emma was the reason he wanted to change and grow. And those words eased the fear she had been holding on to, allowing both of them to speak openly about how routine, stress, and unspoken emotions had quietly built walls between them. And as the conversation continued, they laughed, shared regrets, and made simple promises to communicate more honestly and support each other without assumptions, understanding that love was not about being perfect or fulfilling every need alone but about choosing each other again with awareness. And in the months that followed, their connection grew steadier, not dramatic but real. And when Daniel's next birthday arrived, there was no grand surprise, only a quiet dinner, shared smiles, and a sense of closeness they had rebuilt together, knowing that the greatest gift they had given each other was trust, understanding, and the courage to face change side by side.